business 101 is that if your only competitive advantage is your price, then you don't have a competitive advantage.
Welcome back to For Entrepreneurs by Entrepreneurs. I am Eric Verdi. Joining us this week from the UK are Rob and Kennedy from the Email Marketing Heroes Email Marketing Show podcast. So they have, this is their third iteration of podcasts that they've done. They are email marketing specialists. So their podcast takes a little bit different format of what you're listening to today with For Entrepreneurs by Entrepreneurs. They alternate from the two of them getting on and talking, giving insight, information about email marketing, and then interviewing guests. So it's awesome to have experienced podcasters on the show, and we're going to rock and roll. Rob, and we're going to go with our backstory first. So Rob, why don't you go first, give us your backstory, and then exactly what business you guys do.
Yeah, sure. So great to be here. Dead excited. Our stories are a little strange. I'll go with mine first, I guess then. I'm actually a comedy stage hypnotist. So for the past nearly 18 years, I've been traveling all over the world, performing my comedy hypnosis show, hypnotizing people on stage, making them do crazy things for their friends. And that's that. So I've always been obsessed with entertainment and understanding human behavior and all of that stuff. And along the way, I realized that actually there's a whole raft of other people out there who wanted to learn to be hypnotists, and they were following what I was doing from a really young age. Like I left school and went straight into doing this, and I've done it ever since. And so when I realized that these people were following after 4 or 5 years of doing it, they were following what I was doing. And I realized I could start selling training to them on how to do that stuff. So I started a second business online where I was creating courses and programs and training to help hypnotists to get a better job, to get more booked, to be able to price themselves better, etc. And so I started doing that. And then Kennedy and I, we've been friends for a really long time, nearly 20 years. And he has a really similar journey, incidentally.
Yeah, it's weird. I was always interested. I think I was like that kid who was paranoid about what people really think about me. We all go through that sort of period of our lives of that sort of teenage angst and paranoia. So that never kind of wore off for me. So I perform full-time as what in the States you call a mentalist. In the UK, we call it a mind reader, where I combine skills of psychology, understanding human behavior, reading body language, and influencing thoughts into people's brains to make it look a lot like I can read people's minds. Because to be honest, when you can use those skills, you pretty much can read people's minds. So I've been doing that at conferences, corporate events all around the world for the last 18 years. And again, like Rob said, Rob and I actually met at a convention for other entertainers, and we became friends pretty much immediately and realized we actually live within about 30 to 40 minutes of each other. One of the interesting things, though, that I realized is gigs don't just show up at the door. You're not going to just get Yahoo or Google or Amazon or anybody knocking on your door saying, hey, come and do a show for me, Kennedy. Hey, Rob, come and hypnotize people. That doesn't happen. Being an entertainer is actually accidentally a business. And so you actually have to get gigs, price yourself, market yourself, and communicate really well. So what started happening for me is other entertainers saw how often I was working, because I'd be posting those pictures on Facebook, because this was pre-Instagram, imagine those days. And I would be putting pictures on Facebook or MySpace or, whatever before that was on, and people would be like, you're at another place, you've got all these gigs. And then obviously competitors would call me up and ask and pretend to be inquiries and find out how much I charge and be like, and you're really expensive, so you're busy and expensive, how are you doing this? And this led me into building a coaching program for other entertainers, a membership, online courses, online education for other entertainers. And again, one day Rob was actually working, he was doing every summer season in Greece, on the Greek island of Kos. And he was entertaining tourists and hypnotizing them and mind-boggling them all through the summer season, having fun and drinking lots, I'm sure. And one day, him and I were Skyping, because it was back in the day when people still use Skype. Remember those as well. Where we were Skyping, talking about the fact that we were both doing this thing where we were emailing people, doing email marketing, and selling these online courses. And we suddenly realized we'd accidentally created an information business as well. What's really interesting, I think, for all of us as humans is we tend to compartmentalize all of our knowledge. So it's really easy for us to think, oh, I'm really good at hypnotizing people on stage, or I'm really good at reading people's minds and figuring them out and influencing them on stage, when it really counts. Because if you can't do it there, then you don't have a career, right? If I don't read someone's mind and figure out what they're thinking, like, I don't lose the sale, I lose my career. It's really important. And it's really easy to forget that those skills are useful elsewhere. And so we started implementing them. When we figured this out, we started implementing those same frameworks, those same things we have to rely on to have a career into our marketing and into really good email marketing. That doesn't come across as obnoxious or make you want to puke in your mouth. That's kind of where all this sort of came from, really. So, and then Rob and I ended up building this business together where we decided actually it's about time that email marketing got a facelift, and that somebody ungrubbied it, cleaned the whole thing up and made it more effective while helping people receive better emails.
So I love that you guys come from an entertaining background, because yes, I've got friends that are musicians, and you see some are always booked, and then some are struggling for gigs. And it really comes down to how they position themselves in the market, right? So you guys are obviously positioned yourself, Candy, you said, as a high ticket item. In any field that you go in, there's always your competitors that are going towards the bottom for the lowest fees. Okay. Mm-hmm. And those companies, those entrepreneurs, they're only one low-priced competitor from being out of business. When you become knowledgeable in marketing and branding and strategy, then you can raise your fees, and then you have at the top there's less competition, right?
100%.
Yeah, the thing is, if you're for any, I mean, it's business 101 is that if your only competitive advantage is your price, then you don't have a competitive advantage. You don't have a business. You don't have any marketing. You're not doing anything. All you're doing is going, but I'm cheaper. Great. Anybody can do that. There's no nuance. There's no skill. There's no understanding. There's no appreciation for your market or what they need either. And actually, there's no room for you as a business to offer better service and better customer experience if you're really tight on margins like that. You're out of business any minute.
Rob, do you want to add something?
No, just exactly what Kennedy said.
So in the entrepreneurial world, you've got to find where you fit in. And as performers, as a hypnotist and a mentalist, we're going to get into that in a second, because I want to dig into that, because that really interests me. You guys have to go out and book your own gigs, right? And you're probably booking months in advance. Were you guys, when you were starting out, were you cold calling? Were you trying to knock down the doors, or did you already have this positioning in place as you started to grow? You just said, I need to position myself this way, and this is how I'm going to get my brand out there.
Quite early on, we really noticed that there was a trend of something that we think would work, and no entertainers seem to be doing it in the UK. And that was the idea of, so neither of us like cold calling or selling. Like, we've both done it just to like experience it. Kennedy probably slightly more than me, but neither of us enjoy it at all. And not that many people do, I don't think. But we noticed there was a real trend that wasn't taking off in entertainment in the UK. And that was the idea of doing good old fashioned lead gen, get people's details and then follow up with them until it makes sense for them to buy. One of our core philosophies is that at the end of the day, there's two ways to sell stuff. You can either nag people until they either buy it or block you or run away or, take out an injunction or something, or you can call, or you can be around and be advertising until they're ready to make the decision to buy. And for us, that second one is better most of the time, almost all of the time. So one of the things we realized really early on is actually, if we can do our best to just be interesting and of note to the people we'd like to book us and get them to start subscribing to us. So like the idea of most entertainers would like happily pick up the phone, give them a call, nag people, try and find out, well, when's your next event? Okay, great. Oh, it's not until next year. Okay, fab. Well, when are you booking that event? And you've just got all this like difficult conversation to get through. Whereas if we can just be around, and if we can just get that person's vague interest in the fact that they might hire us, or they might have an event, or they might have some problem that we can solve, then what we now can do is we can be these cool guys who turn up in their inbox on a frequent basis with not with sales pitches particularly, but with cool information that's useful and interesting and impactful and has sales pitches weaved into it. so that the moment it's the right time for them to say, okay, great, actually, you know what, we're having our annual conference. I must get Sheila, who's organizing it, to speak to this guy. That worked really, really well. So from an early point, we were much more about, okay, let's just get these people's details. Let's get them to agree to hear from us by email. And then from there, we can follow up with them until the time is right. And the minute the time is right, we're going to be front of mind. They're never going to say, what should we do for entertainment this year at the conference or whatever it is? Because our emails were in their inbox frequently.
And this really comes down to us flipping that switch around about how email marketing's done, doesn't it? I mean, forever we've been only emailing people when we've got something to sell them, which means email has become like this really self-serving thing that businesses did. But instead, imagine in your business, if you could show up with actual value, stuff that helps people, inspires them, makes them feel good, that they actually want to hear, so that at the moment they're ready to buy, you're there. You've built a relationship with, you've built up trust. You've built up the fact that you turn up every single time. You're reliable and they like you. And now they also, because of the time that's gone by, they also understand what it is you do and who you do it for and how it applies to them. So at that moment, there is no selling. The idea is that the email marketing makes the selling completely redundant, completely unnecessary, and that it makes it like inbound.
I totally agree. So my business is based off of both email, which I have a morning musings. I send out a daily musing / email. On average, probably 80% of the week, so 4 out of 5 days. And then I also have an offline newsletter, which I send to my audience. So I think as a marketer, as a brander, as an entrepreneur, if you see somebody at the grocery store, I don't know if you call it a grocery store in the UK, but if you see somebody out and about and they say, hey, Rob, what have you been up to? Hey, Kennedy, what have you been up to? You failed your audience. They should always know your ongoing story. Like, hey, I'm evolving into this. I've done this new innovation, or I've got this podcast, or whatever you're doing. You need to keep your audience engaged on a regular basis. Some use month, some use week, some use daily, but whatever you use, it has to be consistent. You have to be consistent in that ongoing communication with your audience, because you always need to be front of mind, because you never know when somebody's going to need and or want your service. So I totally agree with you guys.
And the difficulty there, right? The real difficulty is, so a few months ago, so Rob posts notoriously often with selfies about him doing shows. I'm in this theater, because Rob performs in theaters. He's like on Facebook all the time, right? And it wasn't actually the week, it was the other month. He changes hairdresser. He goes to this new hair salon. And it turns out the person who does his hair and owns the salon is this lass who he went to school with, and they're friends on Facebook, and they're also friends on Instagram. So he sits down in the chair, she puts the towel thing around him, and she says, all right, so Rob, what have you been up to? And he's like, what? Like, we're friends on Instagram, we're friends on Facebook. Surely you know that I've got this show, and I've got my podcast, the Email Marketing Show, and I've got the emailmarketingheroes.com brand. Like, sure you know I've got all these things. Of course she doesn't, for a few bunch of very important reasons. One, algorithms. She's not in charge of what she sees, right? There's that bias which is fueled by algorithms, that she gets to see more of what she believes and more of what she wants to see. Secondly, she's busy. The big important thing is that you and I are the only people who see 100% of our content. You're the only person who sees every email. You're the only person who sees every tweet, every Instagram, every Facebook. You are the only person who sees 100% of your content. And to make it even more difficult for you and I to get a perspective on this is, not only do you see all of it, but because you have to think it up, create it, and critique it, you see it and you think about it for a lot longer than anybody else does. So you feel like, I'm doing all this stuff and people must be sick of me. No. If you do it in the right way. And that's why there's this thing called becoming 3D, right, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely. The goal of this is to make sure that you appear everywhere in multiple ways and more often than you probably think you need to. I remember years ago, somebody was teaching something about presenting video for the internet. I remember they said, if you talk with your hands a lot, which I do, if you talk with your hands a lot, in order for that to come across on video, you actually have to talk like far more animated than you really would in real life. Because the camera, whilst it adds £100 or whatever they say, it seems to chop off a lot of the extra motions and movements that you do. So you have to like overcompensate, and it looks ridiculous when you're in the room and you feel ridiculous doing it, but you have to be over the top for the camera to look, for it to look normal on camera. And so we have to do the same thing by email with social and everything. We have to be everywhere and do it more than feels comfortable. Like if you're emailing what feels like a comfortable amount, you are definitely not sending enough emails. So if you're absolutely comfortable with the amount of email you send, then it's not enough. You want it to feel like you must be bombarding these people just a little bit, as long as the emails are good. And obviously we'll talk about that and what is okay and what isn't okay. And then again, by being 3D, you get to appear everywhere. Like if I sent you 10 emails a day, however good they are, there is a point at which you're going to start to get annoyed. But if I send you one email a day, which we do in our business, and then you see a post from us on Instagram every day, which you do on our business, and then you see, I don't know how many times we tweet every day, but a whole bunch of times, because obviously Twitter moves faster. And then you can be in our Facebook group, the Email Marketing Show community. We post in there every day pretty much. And obviously there's other conversations going on around us in that group. Now, suddenly it doesn't matter if you don't check your emails today, or if you're not logged onto Twitter today, or if the Facebook thing doesn't notify you about stuff today, that's fine, because you've got more chance of seeing us somewhere, which means that everything works together and really backs up your email as a sort of sales mechanism.
I love it. So you guys know, joining the show, that I believe each entrepreneur has a superpower. You know, as an entrepreneur, and the three of us are entrepreneurs, I believe that we might do 99 things either poor or kind of okay, but we do one thing really, really, really well. And you guys is obviously email marketing. So how did you find the superpower? Like when was it a pivotal moment? Was it early in your journey and you guys decided, hey, email marketing, and you mentioned you started this story, but how did you know like this was the way that you guys wanted to go?
Right. I think it comes down to results. Literally looking at everything else that was working, was doing okay. I used to book a lot of gigs through Twitter. I used to do some through Facebook, a couple through LinkedIn. But the thing that continuously made sales, got me bookings, make sales of our programs now at Email Marketing Heroes and for other businesses. If you look at the stats, the number one driver of sales and revenue in the world of marketing is still voted as email marketing. And if you just look at the numbers, it makes sense to do it. So, and I think one of the reasons is email marketing is algorithm proof.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if Zuckerberg wakes up on the wrong side of the bed tomorrow and twiddles that knob on the algorithm and suddenly your Facebook group or your Facebook page or your Instagram, whatever it is, reel is no longer popular. You're not at the mercy of those algorithms. You're algorithm proof. So we have this saying, which is you're going to build your audience on social media, but you're going to build your business with your email marketing. There's a story we tell, which is, it's a bit like, we think of it a lot like a rock concert, right? You know, those big festivals where there's like 30 or 40 or 100 different bands playing. And it's a bit like that. So imagine you're a rock band, right? And you're one of those people playing on the big stage. You go along, you rock the big stage. And the great thing is lots of people get to see you, but they're not all there to see you, right? They're not all there to see you, but they see you. That's what social media is. But say I'm at the concert and I don't know, the Killers come on, and I've not really heard much of the Killers. They come on and I'm there because I'm there to see like Guns N' Roses or something. But I'm waiting for Guns N' Roses to come on and the Killers come on and they're amazing, fantastic, tear the place apart. Best thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm still on social media, but the moment that I hear that the Killers have got a concert that they're playing at my local arena and I buy the ticket for the Killers concert, that's email marketing. They are in your room. You're playing to your people, and they're asking for a relationship with you in a way that is not at the mercy of algorithms and schedules and the other stuff that's going on. Because apart from your support act, which is your guests and the people you mention in your emails, there's nothing else distracting them from you, planet you, your world, your message.
I love that story. I love that analogy. It's great. So let's get into the nuts and bolts. What platforms are you guys using? What email software are you guys using?
It's interesting. We, as the Email Marketing Heroes, because we don't own an email marketing platform or anything, we're totally like platform agnostic. Like we don't particularly have any favorites other than, I guess we can tell you what we currently use.
Correct.
So we currently use Keep or Infusionsoft. We actually have a Keep account and Infusionsoft accounts as well. We also use ActiveCampaign. which we find is really, really good as well. We've used ConvertKit until recently. For some reason, the way my brain works didn't really fit with the way their automations work. So we decided to not keep it. But those are probably like for somebody who's either starting out or has a list and they're maybe not sure where it is right now is where they really want it to be. Those are kind of the go-to ones we tend to recommend is ActiveCampaign or ConvertKit is going to get you started really, really nicely.
And then how are you getting people onto your list?
Okay. So weirdly, I mean, we're obsessed with lead magnets and traffic, which is basically audience. And we've tried so many different things and we've got a number of things going on. So we've got lead magnets, normal stuff. But actually our best thing we're doing as of at the moment is our free Facebook group is absolutely tearing it up. What's happening is people hear about us or they see it because the algorithm currently favors Facebook groups and they see the email marketing show community. So if you were there right now and you were on Facebook, you search for the email marketing show community, when you join, what happens is we say, hey, would you like to receive a daily email with the new email marketing tip every single day? And also, if you join our email list and you want to receive those things, we'll send you our 4-day flash sale campaign, which is like 5 emails you can send to your list to make some sales. We'll send you all that as a gift if you would like to be on the email list, but it's not a requirement to join the group to join the email list. And by adding that bit of that reverse psychology of this is not a requirement to join the group, our sign-up rate of people giving us their email address has significantly increased. And the reason for that is people like choice. People like to feel like they're in control and they are choosing to join our email list. So on the way into the group, people join our email list. And what that means is now they're in the group, 2 amazing things happen. And this is why this is really powerful. Yes, 1, they're in our email system, and maybe Rob will talk about what happens next to them if we get time during this. But then what's also happening at the same time as they get in our emails every day is they're also beginning to know, like, and trust us through the content and through the community and through the engagement we have in the group. So we're getting really significant high levels of trust in a world where actually email marketing is really like frowned upon, and it's really seen as one of those dirty little things that people used to do. But because we're working and fighting against that, and they can see we're all about transparency, we're all about doing the right thing, that really helps. So our Facebook group, Email Marketing Show Community, is our number one way of getting people onto our list in terms of, and what I mean by that, I want to just clarify something. It's not about the volume, but actually the speed with which we can turn somebody from joining that group and being a subscriber into being a customer is really fast. And that's the thing that really matters for us as businesses, because you can throw all the ads at something, a lead magnet as an opt-in that you want, but unless you can liquidate the cost of the acquisition of that subscriber, you're going to go out of business. And that's a problem we have faced over and over again. A lot of businesses and entrepreneurs, like all of us, have faced that problem of run Facebook ads. Excellent. Donate to the Zuckerberg Foundation, which is Facebook ads, by the way. Donate to Facebook. But if you can't get people to buy quick enough, then you're going to run out of money.
So do you guys, when I sign up to your email marketing list or email list, is there a 4 or 5 day indoctrination, or do I just go and get the next day's email?
Yeah, so this is a really big deal, because what most people do is they have somebody sign up to their list because they want that free thing or whatever it is. And then suddenly the next day or even later that day, they're suddenly receiving emails about whatever happens to be going on in your business at that time. Now, you might be in the middle of like a 4-day promotion for something, and suddenly they're getting day 4's email for it. And suddenly they've got loads of stuff that doesn't make sense. They may have even forgotten who you are. Like, we do forget that stuff really quickly. And so suddenly everything is lacking context. And that's where marketing starts to fall over. That gets you higher spam complaints, people unsubscribing quicker or disengaging or feeling like what's going on here. So we use what we call the getting to know you sequence. It's our version of like a welcome sequence or an indoctrination sequence. It's 4 emails over 4 days. It doesn't sell anything. It's purely designed to be the bridge and the handover between somebody coming into the business because they want the lead magnet or the whatever, and now being able to hear from us every day. So people say to us, how can you email your list 365 times a year? And it's more than that because sometimes it's more than once a day. And we say, well, that's okay, because as soon as they subscribe, we just tell them we're going to do it, and we give them the permission to unsubscribe if they do. And we have almost nobody unsubscribe through that getting to know you sequence. Our open rates are enormous through all of it. We use lots of open loops to like keep handing somebody from email 1 to email 2, from email 2 to email 3, from email 3 to email 4. And so our open rates are really high, maintained. Normally you'd see a drop off a cliff after 2.
Mm-hmm.
We keep them maintained all the way through. And also the fact that we don't see many unsubscribes from that campaign either, which means that the minute people are in, they're okay with the fact they're going to hear from us every day, because it's framed as we're going to drop you cool stories, hints, tips, inspiration, advice, funny stuff. That's all of it, 100% of it, going to help you with your email marketing. And who wouldn't want that every day if you're interested in email?
I love it. And I think that's hugely important, is when you get new members into your audience, we all have an audience. You just don't stand up on stage and start performing right away. You warm them up, right, in your acts to getting to know you, who you are. You give a little backstory. You probably say something funny, break the ice. So it's really no different than the two of you performing on stage.
It's exactly that. I mean, it's introduce what the get to know you sequence has to do is it has to introduce the characters, and that includes introducing who Rob is, who Kennedy is, the difference between them. So we talk about Rob as the one with the red hair, Kennedy's one with the white hair, and we do it so much like at the end of each of the emails, because our getting to know you sequence comes from me, so it's got my signature on the bottom, and so at the end of each one we'll remind them I'm the one with the white hair. Some people never confuse us, because what we don't want is people receiving emails from a stranger. We want them to feel like they're getting emails from a person they understand and they can imagine who they are. So I'll sign my signature off with, on the first email, I think it's something like the one with the white hair. And then the next one, it's like Kennedy, the white-haired wonder, or, just whatever things that are going to help trigger people and just subtly remind them. But also in there are photographs and GIFs of us, because it's really important that we're not anonymous online. Mm-hmm. Because people need to realize and remember that somebody typed that email. A person with thoughts, with feelings, with priorities, with their own objections, with their own nerves, with their own vulnerabilities. A real living human person wrote that email to them. Yes, it might have been 2 years ago, but there's still a person behind that email. And that's really important. The other thing we want to do in that getting to know you sequence is to make sure we set up the expectations of the relationship. What we talk about a lot at Email Marketing Heroes, where we talk a lot, our main thing is psychology-driven email marketing, as you can probably imagine. That what else the hell would we teach? What we talk about a lot is the importance of building beliefs, building trust, and also saying, hey, every time I say something, it is true. Now, how many times do we write an email, put a sales page together, do anything, and we don't back up the thing we say by just subtly proving it? Because we live in a world of the lowest levels of trust ever. Because we've all been ripped off, scammed, bought a terrible product that promised the world, and then let us down. Not just the money, but emotionally. So what we want to do in all of these is prove things. So one of our emails, I think it's the 4th email in our Getting to Know You sequence, talks about the fact that Rob and I were the closing keynote at a really large, really high-profile marketing event in the UK just last year. And then we don't just leave it there. We have a photograph of Rob and I on stage at this event, and you can see lots of people's heads in the foreground. So it looks like it's obviously a massive event. And then we've even, to drive home the fact which one's Rob, which one's Kennedy, we've even labeled ourselves. This one's Rob, this one's Kennedy. So every single time we're writing something, just remember you're building a belief, and you better be aware of which belief you're building, because either that belief is serving you or it's damaging you.
Totally agree. All right, guys, I want to take this in a different direction real quick. You're starting over from scratch. You're dropped off at a desert island. You don't have an audience. Okay. So go back 3, 10, maybe a year, whenever, and you guys are entrepreneurs starting a new brand, a new business. Give me what day one, week one, month one looks like. So you're consulting, you're giving coaching to entrepreneurs right here.
We can actually answer this with some real world story, I suppose, because in fact, it was 12 months ago last week. I think we were in an interesting position. We have a software element to our business as well. And originally that was the entire business. We just built our business to sell this software. We weren't going to have anything else. You could buy the software, you pay every month or every year, and that's that. And we had a really tough time selling it. We realized that actually selling software is one of the hardest things to do for a whole bunch of reasons. And so we were in a really difficult place. We recently published the full story, but we were in a really tough place and we were about to run out of money. We'd invested £250,000 of our own money. So whatever that is in dollars, more than that in dollars, I suppose. And we were in a really tough place. And so we thought, right, we have to save the business. How do we do it? We didn't know if we could pay our staff that month. We didn't know if we could pay our office rent that month. Like we literally we're on the edge. So we had to effectively start from scratch and say, well, we need to invent a second business. That second business needs to pay the wages and pay the staff and pay the running costs of the software while we're still building that brand. And we thought, well, the only way of doing that is to build a brand that also supports the software because it brings in customers that would want the software later. That way it serves two purposes. We don't just want to create we could create a product selling courses about dog training or anything. But we might as well do something that's going to support that business. And so in about 4 days from nothing, no audience, no list, no nothing, we invented Email Marketing Heroes. We put it all together. We had the first product on sale. And by the end of that month, we'd completely saved the business. And now we're in our healthiest place we've ever been. So the way that we did it was effectively, and we would probably simplify even more if we had to do it again, is we didn't faff about creating content that was probably going to take months and months and months and months to get a return. We actually didn't create a lead magnet either. We didn't start building a free list. We decided what we want to do initially is create a paid product and only have a paid list. And then we can do the most killer email marketing stuff to that list. So I think if we did it again, we'd do a similar thing. I think we'd create a paid product, like a low value paid product, which we did. Mm-hmm. We did it by actually just pulling together resources we already had it in our business for internal purposes and then offering that out. So it was a swipe file of done for you email campaigns for webinars and product launches and all of that stuff. And we already had those campaigns because we used that was our internal playbook for our team to do internal promotions. So we just made them look pretty and put a front cover on it. And that was our product. Pulled together a sales page, put it on the internet. We actually recruited affiliates in our case, but we could have done it with paid ads, but we got affiliates to promote that. And we built really quickly a list of 1,000 customers within the first month, but super fast. And so now we had our first list. They weren't just a list of random freebie seekers on the internet. They were our perfect list. And then we started marketing to them. And it was actually about 4 months later by the time we said, should we now let some free subscribers join the list as well? And that's where that came from. I think that if I had to vote, that's probably, I would say, let's do that again.
Yeah. And then I think the next piece of the journey is really important. And that is the next thing we created, we sold before it was created. So a lot of people, correct. Yeah, I think a lot of people spend a lot of time making the product, making their course.
You wanted to see the demand. You wanted to see the demand first. Exactly.
You want to see the demand. You want to see if that's not just interest, but are people willing to take out go hunt down where they've left their wallet? Where does their credit card in the wallet? And do they know how to use their credit card? That's what we want to know. And so what we've done ever since then is a really simple model of going to our audience, in this case, those approximately 1,000 customers, the customer list we had at that point, and saying, hey, we're thinking about running, in fact, we're not thinking about it, we're going to run this class called Remote Control Persuasion, which is about how do you influence and persuade people without being in the same room as them. So by email, what are all of the persuasion strategies, the most advanced persuasion strategies that we've relied on for our entire lives, how you apply them to email and to video. We're going to run a course about that. It's going to be a live course. It's going to happen on the, 1st of November, making up a date, but on November the 1st. If you want in, it's going to be $1,000 later. It's $300 if you buy it today before the course starts. It starts in 4 days. And then we just did a 4-day promotion and people buy. And at some point we knew that we had to make a certain amount. We were like, if we can cover next month's bills, we'll make the course. Otherwise, we'll refund everybody and we'll just move on and find the next thing. The idea is to be able to iterate and move really quickly. And you can only do that with proof of customers, not proof of concept, not proof of idea, not because your mum and your Auntie Susan thinks it's fantastic, but only when customers say, here's my credit card, I'm willing to pay you for that because you've communicated the value correctly. And we're just honest, we're like, the course is going to be taught live. And then we get on the first call. We spend like 2 days beforehand creating module 1. We do it as a 3-module course. We turn up the first day and we're like, hey, everybody. Ooh, thanks for being here. Chat, chat, chat. Okay, everybody. We're going to like give you the training now. We take a moment. We deliver the training as if no one's watching, as if it's a course. Then we pause at the end. And then we take questions from people who are their lives. They get extra value. And then our editor just chops the beginning, chops the end off. And now when people buy that every single day, they never know it was a live course. It's just a course. But we got paid to make the course. And that's really, really important.
I love it. So give me your guys' programs, your websites, your URLs. How would listeners, viewers find you, listen to your podcast?
Sure. I mean, the first thing is if you want to read the full story about how we almost lost the business, I wrote it up into our free Facebook group just last week. So you can come and check out the full story on that. Plus get on our list if you want to learn some stuff and get involved in our community. It's just go to Facebook and look for the Email Marketing Show community. Or if you're just on like Chrome or your normal web browser, go to robandkennedy.group and that will forward you to the Facebook group.
And if you love podcasts, which I can only assume you do as you're listening to this, you can find the Email Marketing Show on all of your favorite podcast players. So just Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Stitcher and all that stuff. You can go and find us there, or you can tune in at theemailmarketingshow.com as well, where you'll also find all of the show notes and resources too.
Awesome, gentlemen. All right. One final question for each of you. I want you each to answer this. I see the books in the background. You guys got a bunch of books behind you. If I was in my office recording today, would have a bunch of books behind me. But now with COVID, my son's in there doing his virtual school. So you don't see my books. Give me your 2 books as an entrepreneur that you think your audience, listeners today should read. Your top 2 books. Can be marketing, can be email marketing, can be hypnotist, can be psychology. Give me the top 2 books and I'm going to go buy them today.
One of my favorite books, this is a really obscure recommendation. It's called Win the Crowd. It's a book by a magician, the millionaire's magician. He performs to like the high net worth individuals. He's got a show in New York, or did. I don't know if he still does. But it's a book that is subtitled Unlock the Secrets of Influence, Charisma and Showmanship. And it's basically the lessons that magicians use, because our background's heavily tying with magic too. Magicians use, but how they can apply to life and business. So like literally you don't need to be a magician to read it or understand it. In fact, it's probably better if you're not. If you just read this and how he applies the principles of magic like misdirection and showmanship and confidence to life and business, that's a really good recommendation.
Love it.
Every single day when we send out an email, it's story-based. So there's a fun story about something that's happened in our lives. So studying storytelling is really important to us. So Matthew Dix has a really good book called Storyworthy, and it will make your storytelling much more impactful. It will make it more persuasive, make it more compelling. And the easiest way to influence and persuade people is through telling stories. So Storyworthy by Matthew Dix is my absolute favorite.
I love it. Guys, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So it's Rob and Kennedy with Rob and Kennedy Email Marketing Heroes from the Email Marketing Show podcast, episode 37 of For Entrepreneurs by Entrepreneurs. And we are out.